I speak today as President of the United States at the very start of my administration, and I'm sending a clear message to the world. America is back.
America is back. Those three words from President Biden after 4 long years of the Trump administration's bull in a China shop approach to foreign policy were like Xanax to the diplomatic community. The world's red, white, and blue beacon of democracy and multilateralism may have hit an orange roadblock, but it was back on track. You could practically hear America's allies exhaling in unison. But was it actually true? Some major foreign policy snafus from the past 8 months have thrown America's renewed global standing into question. At the very least, we can say the honeymoon is over. But what a honeymoon it was. Remember the G7 summit at Cornwall and that sun-dappled day at the beach with a handsome young Frenchman? But just 3 months later, when the US, Britain, and Australia announced a historic Asia-Pacific security pact involving nuclear submarines, a pact that royally screwed the French out of their own deal with the Aussies, Macron's foreign minister used the word back in a somewhat different way.
C'est vraiment en bon français un coup dans le dos.
There is no question that the French government was happy to say au revoir to the Trump administration. That is my French accent. But it is precisely because their hopes for the Biden folks were so much higher that this move felt like such a betrayal. In fact, just weeks before the sub-snub, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who grew up in Paris and speaks fluent French, visited the City of Light, and he gave no indication that anything was amiss. But the Biden administration's foreign policy stumbles have exacted a greater toll than simply offending some government officials across the pond.
Well, there are scenes of panic and pandemonium at Kabul airport today as desperate people pour onto the runway trying to flee the country in what can only be described as a chaotic exodus.
I was not going to extend this forever war, and I was not extending a forever exit.
A botched U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan facilitated the near instantaneous Taliban takeover of that country after a 20-year American occupation. It was the biggest foreign policy crisis for the Biden administration to date. Heck, it was bigger than any crisis under the Trump administration in foreign policy, and it was also largely self-inflicted. I've said it before on this show, but it bears repeating. The failure lay not in the decision to exit Afghanistan, but in the way the U.S. went about leaving. The logistical capabilities of the U.S. military are nothing short of awesome. And yet, chaos at the Kabul airport cost countless Afghan lives, and those are 13 U.S. service members. The diplomatic fallout was also severe. The U.S. fought alongside allies in the coalition for 2 decades, but when the time came to pull the plug, Biden did so alone, both in making the decision, the announcement, the execution, and in the aftermath. The next true test to America's global standing is now just weeks away. The already troubled COP26 later this month, the most consequential climate summit since the 2015 Paris Accords, will be a critical moment for leaders looking to avoid environmental catastrophe. And given that China is the world's largest CO2 emitter, Beijing will need to be on board. President Biden said at the United Nations General Assembly last month that the United States was, quote, not seeking a new Cold War or a world divided into rigid blocs. But he's also opted to continue Donald Trump's tariff war on China and an ongoing effort to stunt the growth of China's largest tech company, Huawei. And that's why if Biden is going to make any headway with China on climate, he's going to need some European friends at the table. Can President Biden tamp down growing global skepticism and persuade his allies, especially across that pond, that the U.S. is indeed back for real? Or is America's credibility irreparably damaged no matter what Biden or any future president says or does?